What's up, everybody? I put up a video earlier about the Middle Passage. I admit it was pretty impassioned. A lot of cursing, a lot of, yeah. But this video is not going to be like this. It's going to be a lot more measured, a lot more calm. It's late at night. And I just want to have at least one normal video up about this that, we can educate ourselves with. Anyways, this is a direct testimonial from a slave from, I'm not sure what ship. I guess we may find out in this testimonial. But yeah, it's from I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll try my best. Olaudah Olaudah Equiano. Anyways, describes the Middle Passage, 1789. And the 1700s, those are the really like early, like really bad ships. And in the 1800s they made quote unquote reforms or modernization, but the ships were still awful. Still a horrible, horrific, dehumanizing experience. So yeah, I said lightly. Anyways, let's start. I'll read this straight through. No personal, opinions by myself. Let's read straight through. In this harrowing description of the Middle Passage, Olaudah Equiano described the terror of the transatlantic slave trade. Equiano eventually purchased his freedom and lived in London, where he advocated for abolition. And I tried to make this. I made the screen bigger. Like this is just a weird page, but this is as big as I feel comfortable with. Reading it, and I don't want to make the text too big. You know what I mean? I hope you can read it. I'll try to read it as clearly as I can. I hope everybody can understand it. At last, when the ship we were in had got all our cargo, they made ready with many fearful noises, and we were all put under deck so that we could not see how they managed the vessel. But this disappointment was the least of my sorrow. The stench of the hold while we were on the coast was so intolerably loathsome that it was dangerous to remain there for any time. Some of us had been permitted to stay on the deck for the fresh air. But now that the whole ship's cargo were confined together, it became absolutely pestilential. The closeness of the place and the heat of the climate added to the number in the ship, which was so crowded that each had scarcely room to turn himself, almost suffocated us. This produced copious perspirations, so that the air soon became unfit for respiration, from a variety of loathsome smells, and brought on a sickness among the slaves, of which many died, thus falling victim to the improvident avarice, as I may call it, of their purchasers. I believe that means like indifference, cruel indifference. This wretched situation was again aggravated by the galling of the chains, now become insupportable, and the filth of the necessary tubs into which the children often fell and were almost suffocated. The shrieks of the women and the groans of the dying rendered the whole scene of horror almost inconceivable. Happily, perhaps, for myself, I was soon reduced so low here that it was thought necessary to keep myself always on deck, and from my extreme youth I was not put in fetters. In this situation I was expected every hour to share the fate of my companions, some of which were almost daily brought upon deck at the point of death, which I began to hope would soon put an end to my miseries. Often did I think many of the inhabitants of the deep much more happy than myself. It's hard to read, man. I gotta be honest, it's hard to read straight through. This is for a child to go through this is insane. I envied them the freedom they enjoyed, and as often wished I promise I'm not this bad at reading. It's just hard to read it word for word. This is my first time reading it. I read about it last night on the thing I was reading, in passing, but it's first time reading, and it's hard. I envy them the freedom they enjoyed, and as often wished I could change my condition for theirs. Every circumstance I met with served only to render my state more painful and heighten my apprehensions and my opinions of the cruelty of the whites. One day they had taken a number of fishes, and when they had killed and satisfied themselves with as many as they thought fit, so as to our astonishment, who were on the deck, rather than give any of them to us to eat, as we expected, they tossed the remaining fish to the sea. That's what I'm talking about. They hated us. They hated us as people. Literally. This is 1700s. This is really bad shit. There's no human rights. Although we begged and prayed for some as well we could, but in vain, and some of my countrymen, being pressed by hunger, took an opportunity, when they thought no one saw them, of trying to get a little privately, but they were discovered and attempted, and in the attempt procured them some very severe floggings. I'm glad it's almost over. It's not easy. For a second. This is my first exposure to like the really violent, bad slavery stuff. Like I said, I insulated myself from my entire life because it's not something I wanted to learn about because it's traumatizing. It wasn't that long ago, and you think about it in the scope of human history, it wasn't that long ago at all. We've been humans what 100,000 years or so. This was a couple hundred years ago. One day when we had a smooth sea and a moderate wind, two of my wearied countrymen who were chained together, preferring death to such a life of misery, somehow made through the nettings and jumped into the sea. Immediately, another quite dejected fellow, who was, on account of his illness, was suffered to be out of irons. Man, see, like he took like a sick. He's out. He's so sick, man. This guy just suffered, man. I hate this shit. Also, followed their example. Like I don't blame him, honestly. I said this earlier. I would too. So same fate. I couldn't suffer on that ship. And I believe many more would soon have done the same, and if they had not been prevented by the ship's crew, who were instantly alarmed. Those of us that were the most active were in the moment put down under the deck, and there was a noise and confusion amongst the people of the ship as I never heard before, to stop her and get the boat to go in after the slaves. However, two of the wretches were drowned, but they got the other, and afterwards flogged him mercilessly for thus attempting to prefer death to slavery. In the manner we continued to undergo more hardships than I can now relate, hardships which are inseparable from the accused trade. Many a time we were near suffocation from the want of fresh air, which we were often without for whole days together. It's a miracle these people survive. This many of these people survive. No air, no food, no cleanliness. This and stench of the necessary tubs carried off many. During our passage I first saw flying fishes, which surprised me very much. They used frequently to fly across the ship, and many of them fell on the deck. I also now first saw the use of the quadrant. I had often with astonishment seen mariners make observations with it, and I could not think what it meant. They at least took notice of my surprise, and one of them, willing to increase it, as well as to gratify my curiosity, made me one day look through it. Oh wow, you treat them like a human being. See, that's what I don't understand. But they knew we were human beings, but they treat us like a commodity. You have to turn off a certain part of your humanity to do that. Like if you thought this man was just an animal, you thought he wouldn't understand. Why would you let him look through it? Like a monkey wouldn't understand it. A fucking deer wouldn't understand it. Only a human could. They knew that shit. I don't care if it was 250 years ago. They knew we were people. They were buying slaves from people in Africa. I'm not stupid. They did slaves and grow on trees. They were buying them from like that powerful African leaders and the kidnappers. They used by the leaders to sell these people. They knew that the African leaders are buying from more people. They wouldn't have. How would they have done business with them? They wouldn't have understood them. How would they have been traded all these European goods with those people for people? It's bullshit. Oh, they weren't people. They knew we were fucking people. They turned their empathy off selectively. Anyways, they at least took notice of my surprise, and one of them, willing to increase it, as well as gratify my curiosity, made me one day look through it. The crowds appeared to me to be land, which disappeared as they passed along. This heightened my wonder, and I was now more persuaded than ever I was in another world, and that everything about me was magic. At last we came in sight of the island of Barbados, at which the whites on board gave a great shout and many made signs of joy to us. Yeah, and that's where the slavery started. The joy went in there. Then they take out chains and put you in different chains. Anyways, this testimony by I'm just gonna call him OE out of respect. I'm tired of mispronouncing his name. But this is direct testimony of being on a slave ship headed to Barbados, and He's a lot of things he left out. It's just a lot of horrors he doesn't want to recount. But I think darkest chapter in American history by far, and yeah, just something I'd never wanted to learn about before. But I've had to eventually open my eyes to the truth, and it's ugly as I thought it would be.